Oliver and Adelaide Tambo, the foundation, of course, is really significant and will continue to be significant when it comes to learning about the history of these, anti-apartheid struggle stalwarts who dedicated their lives to influence and contribute to the life that we're living today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The foundation has been in existence for 10 years now, almost 11 in June. And that is what we do on a daily basis, find unique and innovative ways to continue their legacy and also pass their values on to the next generation of leaders.
Now, a big part of that legacy is women empowerment, especially, something that we know that both Oliver and Adelaide Tambo were very passionate about. How is the foundation continuing that part of his legacy?
I think a lot of people actually don't know what a fierce feminist Oliver Tambo was, but he truly was. He was all for women's inclusion and empowerment within the ANC and in power in general. And with that, and obviously, Adelaide couldn't traverse the world as much as Oliver could, but she held the home base down so that he could be the freedom fighter that he was, and we have channeled those sorts of values into, one of our flagship projects is the Nkantolo Education Project. Nkantolo is the village in the Eastern Cape where Oliver is from, and we have quite a big 4-school-wide sanitary towel and water project there. There's no running water in the village, so we try to keep children in school specifically so that they don't miss school because of their periods. So we supply them with sanitary towels. And now we've started a project where we're bringing running water and ablution facilities, so important in COVID especially, into these 4 schools in Oliver's birthplace.
Let's now talk about Oliver Tambo, the freedom fighter who made tremendous strides in ensuring that, these concepts about what needed to be done to fight and destroy the apartheid system were concepts that we continue to be proud of today. And his contribution when it came to drafting really important elements of the country's constitution as well as the ANC's.
Yeah, Justice Albie Sachs refers to OR as the father of the Constitution, and former President Mbeki refers to OR as the architect of our democracy. And I think it's very important that the work that the foundation does has to reach so far and wide so that that legacy is kept alive. He was very insistent on a Bill of Rights, even in writing the ANC's the Freedom Charter especially, and things like that, including those sorts of elements of the rights for basic human rights for all South Africans, regardless of race, but including specifically clauses like gender and equality and non-discrimination clauses. That was Oliver's doing, and I think it's really important that people know that.
I mean, you mentioned that he was one of the founding fathers of, South Africa's democracy. How important is it that we don't just remember him on this day and we live his values and, everything that he stood for throughout the year? And how does the foundation help us as the South African public do that?
Yes, today is 28 years since he passed away. And then another big date, especially for the foundation, is his birthday, which is the 27th of October. But you're completely right. Oliver's values, selflessness, collective and servant leadership, Pan-Africanism, mutual respect, those values should be values that are inculcated into South Africans daily. They are values that, should be promoted. They should be taught to children. These are things that it's not only a lesson you can learn as an adult. It should be part of the formative years of children, and one of the things we're busy doing now, we work quite closely with OR's alma mater. He went to the school, it was called St. Peter's then in Rosettenville, but he also taught there when he was done with his BSc at Fort Hare. It's now called St. Martin's, and we've just unveiled Oliver Tambo Ball, where the values are written beneath it so that primary school children are forever seeing that, A, this incredible man went to the school, taught at the school, but also they must understand every day when they walk past the wall to live with humility, to live with courage of conviction, to live with mutual respect and selflessness and a devotion to your country and to your fellow man, which is what Oliver lived and breathed every single day.
It's quite important that you mentioned what other people thought of him and people who were involved in working with him at the time when he, drafted and assisted in shaping the democracy and the Constitution. And you mentioned Justin Albie Sachs. If you'll allow me to read here something I thought was really powerful, where he says, we have become so used to one person, one vote on a common voters roll, and a president chosen by and answerable to a democratically elected parliament, that people today cannot even imagine how important Tambo's intervention was at the time. As we look back 28 years, his intervention was something significant in shaping the country that we live in today. What is it that we should continue to embrace about this giant of a man?
I can answer this in my own words, but actually Kader Asmal said it so perfectly, so I'd rather use his words, as they were comrades also. He said, OR gave us many gifts: selfless leadership, an extraordinary capacity to listen to others and to be open to new ideas, humility, compassion, and a belief in the capacity of people to be their own saviors. And I think today, especially on this 28th-year anniversary, that's what we need to take forward as we try to espouse the values of Oliver Reginald Tambo.
I mean, 28 years later, and the fact that we still speak about Oliver and Adelaide Tambo in such glowing fashion just is testament to exactly how much they've, been part of the new landscape and the revolution in South Africa. But, Oliver himself did say that the revolution must be fought until it's won. According to the foundation, how are we doing in that regard?
I think for us, it's definitely from a youth perspective, a youth empowerment perspective. Like I mentioned earlier, the sooner we inculcate these tremendous values that both Oliver and Adelaide stood for in the young people, even from like early childhood development sort of phases, the more we will have a generation of leaders, future leaders, who espouse these values, who are ethical, who are moral, who are selfless, who understand what it is to lead from the back, but to want the greatest good, for your own people, but then also understand that we have truly then a free and liberated on all fronts generation. So for us, it's very much a youth way to tackle it, but we also do it through dialogues and webinars and events. We have a massive OR Tambo memorial lecture every year where people like former President Mbeki has spoken, Chief Justice Mogoeng, and 2 years ago, Congresswoman Maxine Waters. And it's all people who've lived and worked and been friends with him, so they have a very unique perspective, but a very well-rounded perspective on who OR was, but they also get to then give their perspective on him from a personal basis while still then promulgating his values. So the foundation works on both ends to keep this giant's legacy alive.
We'll be reflecting on Freedom Day and really looking back, remembering that moment of liberation and those long snake-like queues when many went out to vote, really aspiring and looking and hoping for the best. As we look back and as we go into Freedom Day, what do you think are some of the powerful lessons that can be drawn from Oliver Tambo?
There's a quote that I love from Oliver, and he says, "The haves cannot continue to exist at the expense of the have-nots. Freedom has to reflect a difference in the conditions of life." And I think South Africa being the most unequal society in the world, is deeply disturbing, and I think we need to be very cognizant of that inequality and work every day as a nation together to reduce that inequality, to have a more equal country, you know, in Oliver's legacy, in his image, you know.
Thank you so much for your time this morning. Of the Oliver and Adelaide Tambo Foundation Projects and Communications Manager, Natasha Allie joins us this morning on what is 28 years since his passing. All right. Up next.